Hey all, welcome back to MysteryStock. The nuclear accident that occurred on Saturday 26 April 1986 at the number 4 reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near the city of Pripyat is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history both in terms of cost and casualties. Let's look into how this happened and the true extent of the damage. The Chernobyl power complex, lying about 130 kilometers north of Kiev, consisted of 4 nuclear reactors of the RBMK 1000 design. It was the fourth reactor built in 1983 which sadly failed. The RBMK 1000 is a Soviet-designed and built graphite moderated pressure tube type reactor, using slightly enriched uranium dioxide fuel. It is a boiling light water reactor, with 2 loops feeding steam directly to the turbines, without an intervening heat exchanger. Prior to a routine shutdown, the reactor crew at Chernobyl 4 began preparing for a test to determine how long turbines would spin and supply power to the main circulating pumps following a loss of main electrical power supply. A series of operator actions, including the disabling of automatic shutdown mechanisms, preceded the attempted test early on 26 April. By the time that the operator moved to shut down the reactor, it was in an extremely unstable condition. A peculiarity of the design of the control rods caused a dramatic power surge as they were inserted into the reactor. The interaction of very hot fuel with the cooling water led to fuel fragmentation along with rapid steam production and an increase in pressure. The design characteristics of the reactor were such that substantial damage to even 3 or 4 fuel assemblies would, and did, result in the destruction of the reactor. The overpressure caused the 1,000-ton cover plate of the reactor to become partially detached, rupturing the fuel channels and jamming all the control rods. Intense steam generation then spread throughout the whole core, causing a steam explosion and releasing fission products to the atmosphere. About 2 to 3 seconds later, a second explosion threw out fragments from the fuel channels and hot graphite. The accident caused the largest uncontrolled radioactive release into the environment ever recorded for any civilian operation, and large quantities of radioactive substances were released into the air for about 10 days. This caused serious social and economic disruption for large populations in the area, most of which are inhabitable today. The casualties included firefighters who attended the initial fires on the roof of the turbine building. All these were put out in a few hours, but radiation doses on the first day caused 28 deaths by the end of July 1986. The doses received by the firefighters and power plant workers were high enough to result in acute radiation syndrome. Common ARS symptoms include nausea, vomiting, headaches, burns and fever. The bravery of these firefighters is truly unmatched, and I would like to take a moment to thank them for their sacrifice. Without the workers in Chernobyl liquidating the initial nuclear explosion, the world would look a lot different today. The next task was cleaning up the radioactivity at the site so that the remaining 3 reactors could be restarted, and the damaged reactor shielded more permanently. About 200,000 people from all over the Soviet Union were involved in the recovery and cleanup during 1986 and 1987. These liquidators received high doses of radiation, although the highest doses were received by about 1,000 emergency workers and on-site personnel during the first day of the accident. The town of Pripyat was evacuated on 27 April, and by 14 May, 116,000 people that had been living within a 30-kilometer radius had been evacuated and later relocated. In the years following the accident, a further 220,000 people were resettled into less contaminated areas, and the initial 30 kilometers radius exclusion zone was modified and extended to cover 4,300 square kilometers. Apart from the initial 116,000, the relocation of people was very traumatic and did little to reduce radiation exposure. Psychosocial effects among those affected by the accident are similar to those arising from other major disasters such as earthquakes, floods, and fires. So it's clear that the trauma these people experienced extends well beyond physical pain. A particularly sad effect of the misconceptions surrounding the accident was that some physicians in Europe advised pregnant women to undergo abortions on account of radiation exposure, even though the levels concerned were vastly below those likely to have effects. A hematologist who treated radiation victims after the accident estimated that more than 1 million abortions took place. Many residents didn't understand the magnitude of the disaster and thought they'd only be gone for a few days. They were not permitted to bring many belongings, including pets, for fear of contamination. Their hasty exit left a town that today appears frozen in time. Today, Chernobyl is abandoned, with trees, bushes and animals taking over the massive squares and formerly grand boulevards. Even 1970s-era mosaic artwork is disintegrating, since some consider them historic while others see them as symbols of Soviet propaganda and oppression. Following the accident also, questions arose about the future of the plant and its eventual fate. In October 1991, a fire broke out in the turbine building of Reactor Number 2. The authorities subsequently declared the reactor damaged beyond repair and it was taken offline. Reactor Number 1 was decommissioned in November 1996. On December 15, 2000, President Leonid Kuchma personally turned off Reactor Number 3 in an official ceremony, shutting down the entire site for good. You can visit Chernobyl today for a guided tour. The site has been open to the public since 2011, when authorities deemed it safe to visit. Visitors can now tour the control room, where radiation levels could be 40,000 times higher than normal. How much does a Chernobyl tour cost? Tours from Kiev cost between $100 USD $500 per person, depending on the type of tour that you choose. Would you dare visit? Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and consider subscribing as we make new videos 3+ times every week. Thank you.